The White Pill is available now at whitepillbook.com. This episode is brought to you by Patriot Gold. Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us our fifth time returning guest, one of my very dear friends, Dave Landau. His new show has two possible names over at the Blaze. We got into a little bit of an argument about it last time I was on. Is your show called Normal World or Normal World?
A Normal World? Did I say it right?
I don't know. It sounded like both.
I tried to do it both.
So
Normal World. Is it
so-
whatever the Midwestern version is? Normal World.
What is going on? You look like you relapsed. Like there's boxes behind you. You're unshaved. You're disheveled.
Yeah.
You're dressed in a hoodie. Like,
Correct.
what? Do you have fingerless gloves on? What are you completing?
Yes, I started. I took up smoking. I'm hanging out with dudes in cowboy hats that wear mascara. No, I'm actually just in the middle of trying to improve my life.
Okay.
The box is from an exercise bike I set up in my office.
Dave, so, okay, exercise bike, good Lord.
There's also kilos of heroin in it.
Okay,
and there was someone who was trafficked.
Are you going to use that after exercise? Is that exercise bike heavy, or you can move it around?
You can move it around.
Because, like, pedaling while you're in a corner staring at the wall is not really conducive toward using an exercise bike. It's conducive toward using it as like a clothes hamper.
Well, you can also hold your phone, I've learned, or you can use the screen that comes with it. But
yes.
No, it's not very motivational. Basically, I built it, which I was proud of, that I could do handiwork still. And then when I was done, I'm like, I have a lot of other work to do, and that's why there's just still a box uncut. I didn't know where, believe it or not, I didn't know where my knife was for a little while.
Okay.
And then I pulled it out of my backpack, and I was like, wow, this went through TSA like 9 times.
Is that right?
Yes.
Holy crap. You know,
it wasn't huge, but it's still like it could have scared a pilot, and no one noticed.
Given all the spikes of, anti-Semitic hatred around the world, I chose to dress
Where's
up as
this
a Muslim.
happening?
Everywhere. I chose to dress up as a Muslim to go to the airport to make sure that I would be safe. I never thought this day would come, but here we are. I was in my hijab. No one pulled me out of the line. They're like, go right ahead, ma'am. Hashtag passing. So wait. So this exercise, we're going to be on this for another 30 minutes because that's the only, this exercise.
So I'm just picturing you dressed up in a hijab being like, I'm trying to fly safe. I don't want to get suspicious looks.
Why did you put the fake eyelashes
you have an
on?
timer on your shoe. Why do I have fake eyelashes?
I'm in the hijab, and you're like, why do you have fake eyelashes?
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm gonna commit to the look.
Yeah, I gotta go all the way. You just have one. Your eyes are clearly black underneath.
Some little acid scarring.
Yeah, you're like, you just have to make 100% sure you look like a good gal.
So what? I am just flummoxed at what was the thought process behind getting an exercise bike, which I think is like, you know what this is like? This to me, like in all seriousness, right? If someone thinks they have a problem with drinking, right?
Yeah.
And they tell you, as someone who's known many addicts and alcoholics in your life, that, you know what, I'm only going to drink on weekends going forward. Right. So like that is like the equivalent of getting an exercise bike. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get an exercise bike. How much did you spend on this thing?
Oh, only like $150. It was not a real investment.
Okay.
So if I don't use it, I'm fine.
Okay.
But the reason why I got it was I was going to the gym and I just realized how much I hate it. Not in the sense of working out, just in the sense of other people. Like I'd be like on a weight bench and there's just a guy staring at me like, you almost done? And I'm like, well, I'll be done when I'm not sitting here. I don't know why we have to take turns. It's odd.
I
Like,
I've had someone try to take weights out of my hands
you serious?
in between, not like grab them, but like he's like, "Hey, can I use that like for a set?" I'm like, "I'm not done with it." It was one of the craziest things.
It's
So,
insane. And then the amount of sweat that comes out of people that they don't really clean. I'm like, I can't do this.
what kind of
So,
gym do you go to, or did you go to?
LA Fitness.
Wow. Okay.
So just because it's near here, and then also, of course, Planet Fitness because it comes with a free pizza. But it's just you can get a gym. It's just easy. It's all over the country. You can go there at any time of day. And the nice thing about Planet Fitness is there's always people much fatter than you, so you really don't have to do much of a workout. You just have to look around and feel better about yourself.
I don't think that's how it works.
Well, it does a little,
Wait, so I no, not even a little,
a
because like
little.
you're tell y wait, you're telling me if you go to the gym and you see people who are in worse shape than you don't feel you feel better about yourself?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel despair because 'cause
Don't
I'm like,
okay.
I'm in the same category as these people.
If you if you read a writer that's terrible, you don't feel better about your writing
No, most writers are
ever.
terrible.
Well, I agree, but besides
Wait,
that,
you're telling me when you see some hack comic, it makes you feel good about your comedy?
no, I feel bad that they exist.
Yes.
That's a good point. I guess I just get tired of looking at other people at the gym. Sometimes I also do the opposite. Like if somebody's really good looking, I feel like every woman I walk by who's insanely attractive thinks that I'm staring at them, even though I am. But I'm also not. Like I'm aware they're there, but I'm not a pervert.
Sure.
But when you walk by somebody, I just feel like that's the problem. Is there I'm very insecure about just working out in front of people. I think that's the problem. So now I
Well,
have kettlebells and an exercise bike where people can't see me.
Um, yeah, well, I mean, in all seriousness, I only can lift at night because then it's not crowded. Because for me, it's just very frustrating if you have to wait for like a station or a bench and just spinning your wheels. It's like I want to get in here and I want to get out. Like so that drives me absolutely crazy. In fact, I'm gonna go to the gym as soon as we finish recording. We're recording this Monday at 7 o'clock our time. I'm gonna go lift after this. I used to go to 11 o'clock back when I was in Brooklyn because like shoulder to shoulder. It's very annoying, that energy of like people waiting on you, waiting your spot, even when they're being polite and they're just like they're not trying to lurk. When someone's lurking. Like maybe this is caveman brain, but like if there's like a large predator like that's got its eye on you, it's noticed you, you can't not be aware of it.
No, you feel it.
Yeah,
I mean, if something's staring at you in your peripheral, you're uncomfortable. And I mean, LA would be worse. I would go and work out there, and you have just some guy with ass implants just doing squats waiting for you. And you're like, I want to go anywhere else but here. And
yeah,
yeah, New York was the same way. Like, I liked working out in Harlem at the Planet Fitness there because it was always half filled, but it always looked like a prison. And I don't know, it was more comfortable. Like it was just jacked black dudes.
okay,
And they were very much just into the weight bench, and that was it. And so all the other machines were free, and that was kind of nice.
that is nice. Okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm glad you're making a commitment to get into better shape.
I need to. I don't want to, I mean, who wants to die? Well, me a lot of the time, but not today. I want to try to get into somewhat better shape, and I probably do look like I've relapsed. I've been under a lot of
Yes.
stress.
Speaking of people who need to, who in rehab, do you have any thoughts about your old boss, Anthony Cumia? He had a, quadruple bypass, I believe.
It's his fourth one.
Is that right?
No, I think it's his
Oh,
second, but his second heart
wait, like it's
attack.
literally multiple. It's not the first.
He's had a heart attack before.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Anthony's had stents in his heart before.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
he
awful.
yells really loud at video games to the point that his chest stops working. So this time around, I guess they added some extra stints to help with the old ones.
Oh my
I
god.
texted him the next day though, and he was at least lucid enough to text me back. But I hope he's all right because Anthony does take care of himself to an extent. Like he always, even when I lived with him, like he would have a trainer come over and then it would just sound like him in a room getting raped for 25 minutes. I hope it was a trainer. And then the trainer would leave, but he would do like serious intense workouts and then go back to bed because Anthony goes to bed at 5 a.m. and then wakes up at 6. So he was always staying in shape. It's just, I think, he used to smoke a lot, used to drink a lot more than he does, and maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I heard about it and I was actually surprised because I know he's been in a lot better shape than he has in the past.
Wow. Okay, I did not know any of that. Well, I hope he's okay. That was it was
I
kind
do
of
too, because I've lost a lot of friends in the last couple months now.
why? Because now that you got your own show, you're too important for everybody.
Yeah, I just don't answer the phone. Some of them call me and they go, "Help me, I'm having a heart attack," and I just turn off my phone. No, like my friend, 41 years old, very healthy, dude from Detroit, black dude working out at a yacht club, so maybe that's why. But he had a heart attack and just died right there working out.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, dude, for real.
Oh my gosh.
I've lost several friends to heart attacks, and this
Wait a
whole
minute.
like
When you said
my
lost friends, I literally thought you meant you just stopped talking, lost touch. I didn't realize you
no,
meant
no,
literally
no,
died.
no. Like I'm honestly like concerned. My accountant died last week of a heart attack.
What?
Yep, who's in his
Did you
early
get one of those
fifties.
like Publishers Clearinghouse checks?
I did.
And then he's oh my god, like Red Fox.
Yes. Yeah, I faked a heart attack. Ed McMahon's son dropped it off. It was pretty cool. And yeah, but for some reason, and I lost another friend a few months ago. Uh, Same thing. And I'm now worried. I didn't take anything. I don't know what we're allowed to talk about on YouTube, but I'm genuinely afraid for a lot of my friends now, and also for how I lived my life when I was young. I'm trying to get in some better shape.
Wow. Well, I don't think I think the exercise bike is better than nothing,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's gonna get you what you're looking for. I think, and also something I can tell you that would actually help a lot is simply getting a better handle on your regimen. And I don't mean like eating whole foods, organic stuff,
Hmm.
but if you get a kind of a handle on what
Popeyes.
I if it fits your macros, but just having something that is you can eat stick to the same thing every day, and you don't have this kind of like not binge eating, like snack constant snacking when you're hungry. If you have set meals and you think about them ahead of time, and you manage expectations, it'll be pretty easy for you as a male to drop weight.
That's what I need to do because, like, I went to Austin over the weekend to do Mothership for 2 days, Bridget Phetasy show, and then I also was going to do Drinking Bros. And on the way there, I was eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich, and it
Okay.
tasted funny. So, like, halfway into it, I just threw it away.
Okay.
And I have been violently ill since. Like, today was the first day I felt better, but it was like this was Thursday night. And like, dude, I was just in a hotel in Austin. I had to cancel all my shows. Thank God Bridget's fun to text with. Like, but it sucked because I really wanted to go back to Mothership. I wanted to do these shows, and like, instead, I'm just paying a bunch of money to sit in Austin completely. That's why I do look like this, by the way. I've been sick for the last 5 days, um, violently ill, and also the horrible cocaine relapse. But I've just been it was Chick-fil-A though that did it.
But you know, Chick-fil-A is only for people who have a chance of going to heaven, right? Like you're not meant to be eating it. It's like feeding a dog like chocolate.
It's true. It's like it is. It's like giving a monster like the body of Christ, and then they just immediately get violently ill in the middle of the church. They start smoking.
Hey folks, Michael Malice here. You might know me as a Twitter troll, terrible author, insufferable podcaster, but I'm also an underwear model, and the underwear that I model and wear every day is Sheath underwear. If you go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code Malice, you get 20% off and you can be inside my pants. Why I love Sheath is they have special dual pouch technology for both parts of your male anatomy. It sounds weird. The first time I tried them on, I'm like, what is this? And now I literally wear them every day. The great thing about Sheath, it was developed by an Iraq war veteran. And you know, overseas, it gets really, really hot. And Bobby decided, all right, what can I do to make sure I'm not suffering here in this heat? And thanks to his research, you can be comfortable in the comfort of your own home. It's great for cold weather. It's great for hot weather. It keeps you secure and comfortable. And there's something really exciting about going on a job interview, going on a date, doing a podcast, knowing that your underwear has you in its grip nice and secure and comfortable. Go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code Malice. You get 20% off, and you can get one step closer to looking as much like a hunk as myself. Let's get back to the show. So let's talk a bit. Let's talk a bit about your show. How long has it been going on for now? It's
Uh, 3.5 months. I got 4 months. 4 months. Almost. Yeah, 4 months. Yeah.
So what have you come on? Let's talk a little about it. Like, what have you learned? Like growing pains. Like, what do you wish you would know when you started? Just general impressions. I mean, it's exciting. That's no joke to have your own show.
Well, dude, I loved it. You were one of the first guests, and I want you to come back soon because making a sketch with you was a blast.
That was fun.
I really enjoyed Dr. Malice. I've learned that being in charge can definitely. Well,
Why
that
are there any, why aren't there any cameras?
yeah, that and the sketch we did. So, so what hotel are we shooting this? Yeah, yeah.
Motel. Hotel.
It's right off the freeway. It's called the Budget Suites. Um, I learned a lot, and I'd say the main thing I've learned is you really do, especially when you're starting your own show, you have to realize you have to build your own audience.
Yeah.
You're really trying to get help from the network, but the network is already focused on hit shows, and I mean they do enough to push us. I'm not knocking them by any means, but we are building up our own thing pretty grassroots because as you were there, I don't have a big staff. And we're trying to put on a pretty big production with a lot of our
Yeah.
sketches. And so I'm learning that. I'm learning that writing, I was already writing for previous shows pretty much, a lot of the comedy that is. But even like right now, I was just writing 3 sketches today, putting out a monologue, and I'm learning like what works and what doesn't. So we start with a monologue, we do bits. We now have a bit called End of the World where we ask questions. Like it was all about finding what fits where, and everything is a learning curve. So we're still figuring it out. It's definitely more work, not in a good work, in a good way. I mean, I love it. I've really never been happier. And the cool thing about Blaze is they're completely supportive. Like, I don't get any notes on what I say or anything. Like, I am literally allowed to do whatever I want. I think besides, if it got too much, but then we have great people like Sarah Gonzalez who will jump in a sketch at any time.
Yeah.
People that are just willing to be a part of it. So it's like you kind of have to realize who fits, like she fits really well, who's already there, who you can bring in, who's good in sketches, who's good at conversation, what works, what doesn't. And I think just figuring out how to build the audience is the most difficult part. And right now we're doing good. I mean, we're great behind the paywall. And then on YouTube, we're about to hit 70,000, which for a fairly new page isn't bad.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to figure out how to hit that stride.
So how do you have to tailor your comedy? And this is something I'm very curious about because obviously different audiences are very different in terms of what they respond to, what they like, right? So
Yeah.
the way you perform you do your set at Rogan is not going to at Mothership is not going to be necessarily the same kind of humor that's going to land in the same way when you're reaching a predominantly conservative audience. So what kind of things are conservatives responding to when it comes to humor? And what kind of things do you know, like this isn't going to land with that crowd because they're not going to get it or they're not going to find it funny through no fault of their own? It's just like not their thing.
Well, if you're particularly talking about that audience, if you do anything sort of Christian based that can be looked at as anti-Christian because somebody's taking it wrong, that's what bothers me because a lot of times I don't think they get the joke. Like sometimes certain groups will just not grasp the fact that they can make fun of themselves. It's not like Mel Brooks where Jewish people are very good at making fun of themselves. And that's sort of, I get deprecation. I get that, and many do, don't get me wrong, but you will find that a large part of the audience will turn off if they think they're being insulted when that's not the intent of it. Because the intent of any of our sketches is not to insult any group of people. Like, really, I found that, like, the mission of the show, I just want to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much crappy news out there. You can get it anywhere you want. There's a ton. Every conservative show will let you know how horrible the world is throughout the day. We just want to kind of make it fun. And, you can go to sleep kind of laughing and just hear hear people's stories. I mean, sometimes we'll have other people on that have a little bit deeper insight or might be a little angrier, and that's fine. It brings in good conversation. But for the most part, it's just about, I don't know, it's just about figuring it out.
Well, what is it that they like that maybe a more mainstream audience wouldn't?
They definitely like some stuff that can be a little bit cleaner, or conversations that are pro their own belief system.
Okay.
And I may not share that belief, but I do like the people that tune in that don't mind that. Like, it's very hard to find an audience that does want to hear a conversation between two people, it feels like, who might have differing opinions. And I kind of have noticed, at least I thought that. And I noticed recently, like we were talking about Matthew Perry's drug overdose, and I have different opinions than a lot of people on it. And then you have, or not drug overdose, sorry, heart attack.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the Hamas who killed him. So we had different conversations on that on the show, and the when we discussed it, you're going to get those people whose instant response is, "He's a junkie. It's all about willpower. Who cares?" And you get those responses in the comments, and then I'm learning now for really the first time to not give a shit about what other people think, and that's taken me years.
But that's such an awful thing because it's not like even if he was a junkie, which I think is a very um, reductionist way of looking at someone who's an addict. It's not
Yes.
like Matthew Perry didn't contribute a lot to society. He made a lot of people laugh for a very long time, and
Yeah.
that's more than I can say for either of us.
Yeah. Dick. Well, I know I don't have a hot tub, so you might be onto something. Um, yeah, like he contributed something. He left something behind that was important. I mean, not his body, but a center where he built an actual, rehab
Oh, he did?
center. Yeah, I guess he was building one in
That's
Malibu. That was
wonderful.
a man's. Yeah, he did a lot of good things for people, and we were discussing him on a show where there was a guy who was going at him about prove this is a disease, prove this is certain things. And I think the way that you have to look at that is a disease is something that rapidly kills you, and that's why they call it that, because the end is death. It's not, and people can make the easy joke, which is there. It's like, yeah, it's not cancer. You can't just quit cancer, but once something has its hooks in you and you have no
Yeah.
control over it whatsoever, and the end result is death, that's why it's called a disease. And I
And
mean,
it's a
people,
progressive disease in the sense that it doesn't get better, it only gets worse.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel a lot of people don't have empathy for. And the hubris they have about not having empathy for is pretty astonishing. But I also realized you can't talk about it without having those people go at you. And I kind of enjoy that you can put that out on the show, because there is a religious aspect to that too. And that's what I appreciate about a lot of the viewers. You find a lot of these people who are, a lot of them are, say, God fearing Christians. They do have an empathy for it. You do get people that are going, well, that's the demon in you and that's Satan. But you do have other people that just go, no, we understand, like, human beings are flawed. This is part of it. They kind of have an open mind to the idea of an addict. And then you have people who, I think they try to empathize in a way, but then you also have people who just are so pious, they just believe that you are a loser with no self control and it's your fault. And I mean, I can't imagine what they're like behind closed doors, probably addicted to something, hamburgers or something. But it's usually, there's usually a projection with that kind of anger. If there's not, I'm stunned.
Here's the thing, though. Let's suppose someone is weak-willed. To kind of write them out of the human race for that is just really kind of wrong to me. Like if someone's dumb or if they're ugly or fat, whatever quality you want them to have,
Whatever you want to call me.
but it's just like, oh well, then who cares if they die? It's just like that seems to be a very bizarre distinction as to what defines a human being or someone of value. If someone isn't hurting anyone. But here's the other thing. I was talking about this over the weekend. I was at a wedding, officiating a wedding in Atlanta, and I was talking to my buddy Jay about this. And it's like, if I've never been an addict. I'm not an addict, but I have several friends who are addicts. And the way I kind of wrap my head around it is, imagine you're having like the worst panic attack of your life, right? And like you can clench your teeth all you want, but if you knew in the back of your head, listen, if you just take this one pill that you've taken thousands of times in the past, you know you're going to be feel fine in minutes and you don't have to have this panic attack. At a certain point, it makes sense to take that pill. And that's that kind of loop that addicts are in. So for I then there's people who don't have sympathy for those who have like anxiety or depression. It's like, oh, just snap out of it. It's like, look, maybe something's easy for you, but we're not all wired the same. And if someone has to deal with anxiety, which is not rational, it's not like they're anxious disproportionately over real things. Anxiety is not rational. You're anxious disproportional about things that aren't real, but
Right.
that's not how the mind works. So I think a little sympathy, and if you're not capable of empathy, really does go a long way. And especially when there's so many people who are recovered or recovering alcoholics or addicts who become great members of society, to kind of sweep them all into the throw them all into the garbage can. Like I don't get it. I just think I think it's just people are so desperate to find an out group and then to just kind of read that out group out of the human race. It makes me very sad.
I agree. And I think part of that is being a contrarian is very easy for a lot of people now. Like, I think that's an easy stance to take. And the clip that we were talking about on the show with him was he, it being a matter of choice. And you look at somebody like Robert Downey Jr., who finally made that choice after he was out of prison. And he said it came down to a matter of choice. But the choice is very, very painful. And
Yeah.
that's what people don't realize. It's not him saying it was a matter of choice just to stop so willy nilly and easy. It was a matter of choice to go, like, okay, I'm going to suffer the rest of my life and not give myself something so I can be better and enjoy my life more. And hopefully that will be what pays off. And it did. I mean, look at him. I mean, he's one of my heroes for that reason, not just for going to Epstein's Island, but for, in fact, becoming Iron Man. But I mean, in all seriousness, that's what I loved about him, because he went from somebody who was a 39-year-old man in prison, to getting out and changing his life and then becoming Iron Man and entirely flipping his life. And yes, that was a choice. It's all a choice. And the idea that it's a choice, people think, that makes it not a disease, or that makes it not, something that that makes it something that's easy to quit. They don't realize that that choice is immensely painful. It's not just choosing dinner. It's not just choosing, it's the hardest choice you'll ever make, because you're deciding to live or die. And at that point, the dying is just easier.
And you're also deciding to identify yourself as someone who's fundamentally flawed and unfixable, which is a
Yes.
big pill for a lot of people to swallow. It's like, wait a minute, I am not normal. I will never be normal. Like, this is a problem I will always have. No willpower. No. Now, some people can go cold turkey, more power to them.
Hmm.
But for others, it's just like, all right, like I am fundamentally different from a lot of other people. And I have to accept that this is my paradigm going forward. And it's not easy for a lot of people because they see their friends, and their friends can binge drink every weekend. And sure, they're hungover, but their lives aren't ruined, or, they don't have
No.
real repercussions. And it's like, I can't have what they have.
And a lot of people suffer in silence too. A lot of the people who look good, end up being the ones who call me years later. And I've lost
Yeah.
friends who are just like, man, he's got his life together, house, pregnant wife, and then he's dead in his car behind a bar because he was doing coke. And it's like, I wish I could. There's so many optics. Like, that's the problem with a lot of this world. Is, I'm not saying you always have to wear your heart on your sleeve, because truthfully, that's dangerous. It can cost you your job. I mean, it makes people fearful. And I've watched a lot of people die because they're hiding. They're hiding the thing that they need to fix about themselves.
Folks, did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver infused fabrics and makes temperature regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Here's what makes them great. They've got self-cooling properties for better quality sleep. They're using silver infused fabrics. Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating, designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long. You get better sleep every night. Self-cleaning, infused with silver, so they prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. And Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. They're the perfect gift for your spouse, friends, or family. who doesn't want better sleep and luxurious feeling bed sheets? And they come with 3 free towels. You get 2 gifts in one, just in time for the holidays. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Go to trymiracle.com/malice to try today or gift it to somebody special this holiday season. We got a special deal for our listeners. Save over 40%. And if you use promo MALICE at checkout, you get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Here's the thing. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you aren't 100% satisfied, you get a free refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/malice and use the code MALICE to claim your 3-piece towel set for free and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/malice to treat yourself, a friend, or a loved one this holiday season. Folks, Barron's is warning the stock market looks like the dot-com boom before the bust, and the Magnificent Seven all tech stocks account for more than 25% of 2023's gains. Meanwhile, Fortune magazine is warning that the S&P is heading below 3,000, and 2 of the biggest stock market crashes happened in October, which was October 1929, and Black Monday, which was 1987. Seasonally, we're entering the best 6-month period for gold and silver, and along with the Fed nearing the end of their rate hikes, gold is poised to skyrocket. JP Morgan and Wells Fargo both forecast gold to hit all-time highs in 12 to 18 months. So call the proud Americans of the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Mention my name. That's Michael Malice. And you'll always get best-in-class service from Patriots protecting Patriots. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA and qualifying rollovers. Here's all you got to do. Call 888-505-9845 to get a free investor guide, or simply go to malicegold.com. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 7 years in a row. So call 888-505-9845 or just go to malicegold.com and start protecting your money. Let's get back to the show. Let's make people even more depressed.
Let's do it. That's why I'm a comic.
One of the other things I learned over the weekend, I had been under the impression that all these people who were dying from fentanyl were using drugs that were laced with fentanyl. They didn't know they were laced with fentanyl. And as a result, if it's much more potent than, let's say, heroin, you think, okay, I'm used to doing whatever 1 bag of heroin a day, but now that 1 bag is the equivalent of 50 bags and I'm out. And I didn't understand, just from the production standpoint, why would I, as a drug producer, an illegal drug producer, want to be cutting with fentanyl because I'm killing my client base and I'm getting more legal scrutiny. This doesn't make sense to me. And I had to have it explained to me. First of all, that I didn't realize that fentanyl deaths are through the roof. It's climbing exponentially. I assumed they were kind of flat. If you look at the chart of fentanyl deaths, it's just spiking.
Yep.
I didn't realize there's people who are intentionally trying to take fentanyl and are playing Russia. I did not realize that. When I was in college, this was in 97, there was a guy from the Libertarian Party. I do not remember his name. And the point he had made at the time was that drug legalization is important because if it's illegal, there's an enormous market pressure to make the drugs more potent, because that way it's easier to smuggle. It's a bigger high. You can carry it around and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what happened here. And I did not realize how bad things are, that people are actually choosing every single time to play Russian roulette.
Well, they're choosing it too because it's more affordable.
It's cheaper too?
Yeah, fentanyl's cheaper.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's very cheap to make. I mean, that's why it was originally being put into drugs. I mean, if you're going to, into other drugs.
Yeah.
If you're going to put harder drugs into drugs, it's not because you're losing money. It's a fairly cheap product to create. So the people that want to get a hold of it, like, I don't know if it's cheaper on the street now, but I know for a long time that it was. But yeah, people are using it to get that high, and people think they can control it. And I guess it depends on who's making it. A lot of times when it first came for, okay, is this for, what animal is this for? What person is this for? There's varying degrees of every medication that's sort of like that, ketamine, I've talked to a lot of people, which was, originally, had I heard it when I started using it in the 90s, for cats, but it was for all kinds of animals. But yeah. I mean, originally I had heard it was for cats, and it was great. And I was using it to treat depression in the 90s. I just didn't know it. And now people who use it, they swear by it and I'm happy for that. I'm happy that people can find that leverage, but they would have never thought about legalizing and giving you the correct amount then.
Right.
Now they do it, and there's actually these wonderful benefits to it. You have to look at psilocybin and these other things that are beneficial to people. But this drug is something that is just deadly. So, like you said, they are playing Russian roulette every time for the high. But people who are sick are going to want to save money because they don't have any. And the number of people living on the streets are now dealing with a highly deadly, highly addictive drug that's being brought into this country in masses. Like the amount that is getting in here is disgraceful. I don't understand. I mean, it's going to get in here one way or another, but I've never seen cities look like this
Yeah.
ever. And that to me is a sign of corruption. That is to me that's an issue with border security. I don't know. There's a lot going on there that's deeper than just, obviously addiction, but to have that amount and break the number of people that it is seems almost nefarious to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's time to put on tinfoil hat because if something is this much of a problem, this pervasively for this long, with this much of a cost, both in terms of literal deaths and in terms of lives who are, really far gone, and to bring them back is going to take, much more than just a cold shower. At some point, someone is benefiting from this
Yes.
to some large extent, because otherwise, this kind of thing couldn't keep happening.
There's no way, and especially the way the country looks. I mean, especially when you go into major cities, and like recently, I was even in DC. Like, I was doing a friend of our show, and I was like, "I'll stay at Watergate. I've never been there, and I remember
Oh,
it from
yeah.
a kid." Yeah, And but even going like walking around there and just seeing what it looked like, I'm like, "How is this the capital?" And there's just tents everywhere, and
Is that right?
yeah, dude, like
DC's
right
become
outside.
Tent City?
Yeah, dude. Even outside of Watergate, it was insane. And like how nice that area is. There's like water right there. Like, it's all very nice, but it's not as bad as a lot of the country. But there's homeless and people that are addicted everywhere. And I have that issue because I see that. And I also see the opening of casinos, which is another thing where you have these, it's legal everywhere. You have these machines that rob people in a way that they never have before. They're designed to just basically steal and addict. And I think we're looking at a rise in that and a rise in a suicide rate as a result of it. And I'm noticing this whole new thing where it's like it's just legal everywhere, and it's never seemed more dangerous involving slots and these high end machines. That's another thing that bothers me. Like there's these new addictions to me that may have been there before, like in the form of heroin, in the form of gambling, but they've never seemed more dangerous to me than they seem now.
Well, I don't think they were ever as socially acceptable.
No,
Or it's kinda like it wasn't a thing when you and I were kids. I mean, you're from Detroit, I'm from Brooklyn. Even in Brooklyn, and I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood in Bensonhurst. Well, that's because it was probably run by the mob, I'm thinking out loud, but point being, it was not a place where you saw open drug use, like, at all. That wasn't a thing.
no, and I lived in Bensonhurst, and they still had the names of a lot of the people that used to run that city, and they took care of it for a reason.
Yeah.
And Detroit had a lot of that too. But if you were doing, even in the 90s, if you were in the ecstasy business because it was popular, and you had Russian mob, obviously, that ran raves and all that other stuff, there was definitely money being made off of it. But there wasn't, if you were doing heroin or doing these certain things, it was always behind closed doors or with a very small group of people. It was never, even in the 90s when it was supposedly chic, it really wasn't. It was still a very, very scary drug that was very off-putting to most people. And now doing hard drugs seems to be strangely more popular than ever when it's never been more deadly.
Let's switch tacks a little bit. I would love to hear from you as someone who's been performing stand up for many years now. What is it like performing at the mothership, and how is that crowd different from other crowds that you've been used to as you traveled the country?
I love it. I love that club. I like the club a lot. The first time I went was with you,
Yeah.
and what I loved about it was I asked you first, like, how are the crowds? Because it's Austin, so I never know if it's gonna, I just wasn't sure. And you were like, "Oh, trust me, they're comedy fans." And I asked Adam Egget, and he said the same thing. He's like, "It's Rogan's people. They just want to laugh." And there's also no food coming out. They're the
Yeah.
focus is on the comedian, which is honestly, I hate to say it, but that's always been a large problem in comedy clubs and a lot of clubs in this country. Is the focus is on the food, the drinks, everything else except for the performer on stage. Everything else is cared about before the entertainer. So the fact that you don't have phones out, they're taken from you, everything is focused on you, all the attention is about the show is one of the most beautiful things that you can really have in a comedy club. And then the way that he has it acoustically designed is absolutely magnificent.
Oh, okay.
I've really never seen somebody like he really captured like what was good about the store look wise while making his own thing that's obviously looks a lot cleaner. But he encapsulated like what a small like kill box room should be. Like it's absolutely a perfect room.
Do
I
you
love
think
it.
do you agree with my hypothesis that this whole kind of cancel culture stuff in terms of like finding someone's old tweets or some comics, off color joke and ruining their career has kind of peaked?
Yeah, I mean, once you have Shane on Netflix saying retard, I don't know if we're
Okay.
really
I
in
didn't know
the
that happened.
war.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, like when he's on his special. That's what, because Shane was on Compound when we were there.
Right.
And then I ended up taking over his show when he left. And he's somebody who, was obviously canceled by SNL. And I'm always wondering, like, is he going to host it at some point now? Because, I mean, getting SNL and getting kicked off of it is already a pretty good credit, in my opinion. But then to be skyrocketed onto that Rogan thing where like every other picture is you and Kid Rock and Trump and he and then he has that kind people call it 90s humor, but I don't think it is. I think it's just who he is. I think when I saw Shane hosting when Shane first emceed for me, it was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he was opening for me, and he was the same guy. He's just that same kind of bro, which connects to a lot of people. So to see him do that on Netflix, this is a few years after his agent dropped him. People didn't want to book him, all that. I think it's completely gone away. I think people will try it. But I mean, that was the ultimate backfire because you had some dipshit who was doing bird calls who wanted to take down somebody's career, and it couldn't have worked out better for the person who he was trying to destroy.
I actually sent Shane a hang in there letter when this happened, telling him this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to him. And if he had stayed on Saturday Night Live, he would probably still be successful, no question. But I don't know how much he would like to look at himself in the mirror. I don't know that Jimmy Kimmel, uh, goes to sleep and sleeps contentedly.
No, and I think Craig Ferguson does.
Yeah,
He walked away from all that, and I think it's odd. I was watching something with Colbert today where he was talking about religion or at least his beliefs, while kind of putting on a show that seems the very opposite of what
yes,
somebody who would believe in that stuff would do. And I'm like, there's no way, because I remember years ago reading a Rolling Stone article with him when they were talking about his character on the Colbert Report,
yeah.
which was brilliant in my opinion. And what he said, he goes, well, I do lean conservative a bit. Of course, I lean left a bit, and I'm able to kind of channel that. And that's why I'm able to create the character. That's obviously not what comes off on his show. And I think that's why late night is so completely dead. I mean, once you saw Jimmy Fallon start singing about COVID variants, and I just didn't understand anymore. And dancing needles and doing these other things, you have to feel like something higher than that it's not even tinfoil hat. You're looking at it.
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
So it no longer comes off to me as comedy or entertainment. And then if you get something that's genuine, uh, I love that. I think the genuine uniqueness is what's important to a comedian. It's important to art. And I think that's what it's killed a lot of our culture by trying to pander to everything because that's an impossible thing to do.
Sometime in the early 80s, REO Speedwagon's airplane made an unannounced, middle-of-the-night landing.
This is my friend Kyle MacLachlan, the star of Twin Peaks. And he's telling me about how he discovered a real-life Twin Peaks in rural North Carolina, not far from where he filmed Blue Velvet.
What was on the plane was copious amounts of drugs coming in from South America. Supposedly, Pablo Escobar went looking for other spots, quiet, out-of-the-way places to bring in his cocaine.
My name is Joshua Davis, and I'm an investigative reporter. Kyle and I talk all the time about the strange things we come across, but nothing was quite as strange as what we found in Varnamtown, North Carolina.
There's crooked cops, brother against brother. Everyone's got a story to tell, but does the truth even exist? Welcome to Varnamtown.
Varnamtown is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Folks, there's a lot of health misinformation in the corporate news. I don't need to tell you this, but there's something that is certainly true that I can speak on behalf of many of my friends and many people who work in this space. There are certain bad habits involving tobacco that have very serious deleterious consequences, and Fume is here to help you mitigate and possibly eliminate those habits. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. Instead of bad, Fume is good. And it's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. It's made of Canadian wood, has a nice taste, has a nice feel, has a nice look, and it comes with an adjustable airflow valve and designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting. So it gives your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. Stopping is something a lot of people put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume, F-U-M, and use code MALICE to get 10% off. That's tryfume.com, F-U-M, and use code MALICE to save an additional 10% off your order today. This is something that can save you a lot of money and make your life fundamentally better in many ways, and you owe it to yourself to get control over certain bad habits in your life. Let's get back to the show. What do you think? Are you white-pilled or black-pilled about the future of this country? Because I got to tell you, I'm optimistic, but I think this past month, in terms of how the world's kind of spiraling, the stuff that's going on with the legal situation with Trump is, obviously there's stuff going on in the Middle East. I'm not a fan of Ukraine and Russia continuing their war and killing people for God knows how long. What are your thoughts? Do you think things are going to get worse before they get better?
Yes. I mean, I'm personally, I've always been kind of black-pilled, but for the first time in a while, I do have hope because I'm hoping that this is getting towards the end before it gets better. But every time I've always thought that it would keep getting worse, and it does. And truthfully, I am bothered by the amount of anti-Semitism I've seen. It's really disgusting. I'm bothered by the fact that people are okay with what they've... I'm bothered by the fact of the horrors that we've seen online, and we're okay with even looking at it. And I'm a very dark comedian and dark person, and I can't look at it. And then I'll hear people who I would consider fairly normal discuss things that I'm like if you look at my Instagram, I'm liking puppy videos now for the first time in a while because it's all I want to see. I'm almost tired of being so negative about it. I realize it's hiding. But I've always been very black-pilled about the human race, just because anytime that I've had a bit of hope or had things in my life where I thought it would be great, somebody pops my balloon and I end up getting dragged down. It's just depression or the way I think or addiction, whatever. But I'm trying not to think that way. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end and then it becomes the beginning again.
Well, I mean, I had this tweet where I was like, hey, remember we all thought that the 2016 election was the craziest thing ever? and then we're all locked in our houses for literally no reason, and we're not even into 2024. So like when you put in those terms, it's like, okay, what happens after the wheels fall off the bus and the bus starts exploding and everyone runs off the bus on fire, running around in circles? Like, what's the next thing after
Well, then
that?
they get on the bus and then they
Yeah,
keep driving. Like it's tough to say. Like there's because anything you predict now just will happen.
I
Like
thought I was joking because I had my friend John put together a mashup of the pride flag and the Palestinian flag, because I'm like, this is the state of our universities now. And then people did it and were waving at the marches, and I'm like, all right, I'm out. Like I'm out. Like I'm out. Like I like when Mr. Chaos, Mr. Anarchism is like, okay, I don't know what satire is anymore. I don't know what to do.
when you have gay pride for Palestine, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's like women's rights for Al Qaeda. You're like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Like I couldn't, and there were people I remember in New York because they were posting it. They were walking to Times Square. They're like, I heard this is happening, but there's no way. And you just see that's not woke. That's the shittiest form of ignorance I've ever laid eyes on. Where it's like, do you guys just not want to believe they don't like you?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what would it take besides all the beheading videos and rooftop throws and being lit on fire? Like, you've seen they don't like you. Like, what is it going to take for you to not be like, I know, but we have to accept them? No, you don't.
Yeah.
They hate you. I don't. That's why, like, look, if you hate America and you hate everybody else and you hate every other group, I don't have to like you. And I'm perfectly okay with that. There's no reason why I should have to defend that. So the fact that you're weaving a flag together that's your rainbow flag or your trans supporter flag, which is already the fucking weirdest looking thing I've ever seen dangling from a suburban fence, where it's just like the pink silver triangle, just letting people know you support. It's like, no, you don't. So, it's like plus a BLM mix in there, just so everybody knows how special you are. Like that mixed with an Islam. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. We can't be that stupid, right? But we are.
We could be a lot stupider.
No, it turns out.
Yeah, yeah. Like
There's a parade of stupid that agree with that flag.
what's that expression from Recovery? It turned out my basement had a cellar.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny when you hit rock bottom and then you realize that there's another bottom.
Yeah, there's a
And,
trap door.
yeah.
It's like, oh, all right, let's
I don't
sell
know.
it. And now this trap door has a slide. It's like
Yeah.
those Japanese like hidden camera game shows where they step into the elevator and the door falls out and they
And
go
the
into a
next
slide
one.
of goo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's gators in this one. Yeah, you'd be surprised how much worse things can get. And I've been learning that my whole life, and I've learned that from my own life experience. So for me to think other human beings are going to do it better is absurd. I just have to think eventually we have to learn. I mean, eventually we have to be able to learn from our mistakes. I did, which is crazy because I'm not good at that.
I don't think that's true in the sense that we all have to learn. I think it just takes a certain number of people and then you have to
Yes,
route around the others.
of course.
Yeah.
But I
And this is
think it
when
requires
people
leadership, though.
yes, no, no, sure, but, like, when people are, like, on social media and they're like, "Oh, we gotta persuade a lot of people, we don't have the numbers," it's like, you're never gonna have the numbers. You don't need a majority, you just need an alternative. And you don't have to explain any I think there'll be the bandwagon effect, and then plenty of people are just herds, waiting to be, they'll just go with whatever's popular at the time. And even if you did persuade them, how much of that's really gonna stick? Do you know what I mean? Like if they're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. 5 minutes from now, they'll say the exact opposite. And this applies, by the way, you can watch it right now. When you have let's look at the conservative point of view, don't tread on me next to this back the blue. It's just like, who do this is just a very obvious example of who do you think is going to be doing the treading? Nancy Pelosi's not getting her hands dirty.
No, exactly. That's people don't necessarily know what they believe. That's the problem. Is they have these ideas, and I mean, you can believe two things at the same time, but then you don't realize where that authority is coming from or
Right.
what you're being anti. So it's like, I understand what you believe, but the way that it's structured, it doesn't actually work.
Um, do you have any big plans for the holidays this year?
Murder, suicide.
It's your plan every year, you failure.
I know. I just, I always promise it, but I don't keep it.
I was actually kind of pissed. There's one of my favorite shaving soap companies where it's just a guy. He's been promising this like cool Halloween one. It's been 2 years in a row, and Halloween's been and gone, and he has not delivered. So his real name really is Muhammad. Muhammad, get it together. Like I really
Yeah.
wanted that Spectre shaving soap.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Have you ever had to officiate a wedding
I
or
have.
chose
I've
to?
done. I've done three.
I did three this year as well. Like,
Wow.
do you have any like what were those like for you?
I always made them fun and funny, and just kind of met with them and saw what they wanted. And I did one at Disney World, which was pretty cool. It was two kids, and no, I'm kidding. It was my friend Matt and his wife. And
I'm just kidding. It was a man and a boy.
yeah, obviously,
I'm
come on.
not a freak.
Yeah, it's Disney World. It's it's the only kind of wedding they offer.
I actually ran into a friend of mine from junior high on the train. This is many years ago, and she told me that she got either got proposed to or is getting married at Disney. Whoever was which one is in Florida?
I believe it's Disney World, but
With
I could
Disney
be wrong.
World, and I
Yeah,
laughed in her face because I thought she was joking with me, and she wasn't. And I'm just like, this is the most just the idea of getting married there or getting engaged there is just the most like corporate, soulless. Like, hey, let's call it Love Day, but nothing as
yeah,
lame. Okay, Happy Love Day, like that kind of thing. I just couldn't believe it. I'll
yeah.
tell you,
I married Matt McClowry there, who's been on your show.
he's. What do you mean you married him? Oh, wait, he got married there?
Yeah, his wife loves Disney World, so Matt, he's not going to argue. So I mean, he will argue, but he was like, "All right, that's what she wants,"
But
and
in all seriousness, if you're marrying Matt McClowry, that's kind of a Beauty and the Beast situation. So it's kind of apt because the guy's not really human.
well, yeah, and it's also he has autism, so it's fine that it's a special wedding.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's nice. It's a Disney World. It's like
I
the
I had
other sister with
I
Giovanni
I
Ribisi.
had to cut 2 lines out of the ceremony, and I'll share them with you because I think they'll be up your alley because it's your style of humor.
What do you got?
So the night before the wedding, the mother of the bride, Cindy, hi Cindy, she pulled me aside and she goes, "Here's the thing: the couple were married already. They
Mhm.
never had a chance to get married because of the Kung flu. So they have a kid, but this was their chance to have a ceremony that they missed and to share that day with their friends. So there was no need to be like totally serious about it, you know. And I opened it by saying, I'd like to join this couple, this husband and wife, in lawfully wedded redundancy. So so Cindy pulls me aside and she's like, I want you, like, don't hold back. I want this to be as irreverent as possible. And I was going to tell that and say, and then she took out a piece of paper from her purse, and on the top in big letters, it said Gaza jokes. And I told her, Cindy, this is completely inappropriate. This is a wedding, not a baby shower. So I was going to open with that. I cut that. I'm like, you know what? There's enough old Jewish ladies here that this is really rolling dice. I might not want to roll.
But if you get
Um,
walkouts at a wedding, you're my favorite person.
well, the other thing is, I was going to say, if anyone here has a reason why these two should not be wed, let them speak now, forever hold their peace. And I want to be like, I got to do this. This is my only chance. I'll to like object at a wedding. I'm like, Josh, she's got a kid. Are you sure you want to do this? But I refrained, and it was a great time. And I got to tell you, like, wait, so who were the other two? Were there friends of yours as well? The other two?
Friends of mine, one was a comic. It was a second marriage, and so was the woman's. And like they were very. It was a nice wedding, but yeah, it was smaller, so I was able to joke around. Like I was, it's good that you two met each other. They always say one man's trash, and and my friends just looking at me like you fucking but then still loving it because that's what he wanted. The other one was my friend, my wife's friend, and then yeah, Matt, and then his wife. So I've done three. I may have done four and just forgot one, but I've done several.
That fourth person is watching this right now and just really shaking their fist at the camera.
They're like, well, yeah, what about me? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, well, they were gay married, so I don't count it.
It was such an honor, all three couples who asked me to officiate, and it's kind of such a sign of respect, and I did my best to make sure to roast them as much as I could. And the other thing I really like, and this is to everyone listening, if you're thinking of getting married, if you listen to just one thing I have to say, please take 10 minutes and write your own vows. because if you're watching a ceremony and you're hearing them both speak from the heart instead of some like generic ceremony, like it means so much more, and you're gonna be happy that you did it, and it's so much more meaningful. So even if you're a bad writer, you don't know, work with somebody who is a good writer and put something together. I just think it's just absolutely epic. Was your
No.
go, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. No, that was the benefit is Matt and his wife Patty are both great writers, so that's not something that I had to worry about. And I kept it where, a lot of kids are there and everything. So I really made it fun, and then it was nice after for people to just say like, that's the best wedding I've ever been to. Like we actually had a great time because I just kept it was all jokey and fun, but also serious. I gave them their time, and it was kind of fun just to like stand in this like giant like Disney shrine, like overlooking everything. It was a very cool looking wedding, and it met one of my very best friends in the world, so I loved it, and I meant what I said when I was happy for them. But no, I had the first one I did
Wait,
was
is it true
Death.
that all the kids at the wedding thought you were Ursula?
That's right, they did. They thought I was Ernest
Which one was Ernest?
P. Whirl from like Ernest Saves Christmas.
Oh,
No one knew who it was. They they all thought I was Patton Oswalt from one of the Marvel movies.
oh my god. You're
They it was a blast though, and every time like that you did your own vows, like and even when you speak, like when I spoke at my brother's roast, or I shouldn't say roast, but when I did his wedding toast, that was a big thing, and I just talked about how when he was a kid, he had this moped that he loved very dearly. So I would pee in the gas tank all the time. And when it broke, he would be outside trying to work on it. He couldn't figure out the liquid that was in the gas tank, so his moped wouldn't start. And like it was very punny, but everybody was laughing. And I was like, so trust me, you found the right guy. You're in luck. And this isn't in front of a bunch. Then I just did the speech from Independence Day. So it was just easier to like just tell a few stories about my brother and just like
yeah.
roast him. And that was a blast. So I always think there's a fun thing where if you know the person,
Yes.
there's always like that line where there's a good element where like my wedding, it was fun. There was a little bit of darkness, but it was fun.
You mean
Because
because it got shot up?
what's that?
You mean because it got shot up, your wedding?
It did, yeah. It got shot up, and you know how it went. But I mean, there were two survivors.
That's
No,
all that
my
matters.
my
That they were
my
in love.
mom was bipolar,
Okay.
and she was invited to the wedding. So as normal people would do, she showed up dressed in how you would wear to a wedding. What do you think that would be?
A tuxedo?
A wedding dress.
So wait, hold on.
Uh
So
huh.
hold on. When the couple I married this weekend, they the husband, I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, so I'm careful. He had texted me, this is 2020. He goes, "We're gonna go to City Hall to get our official marriage. Will you be our witness?" And I texted him back, "This would be one of the great privileges of my life." And I think it took him 10 minutes before he wrote back, "Are you joking?" And I wasn't joking. It was like a real honor that I get to be the one person who witnesses you two get married. Like, what a compliment that is, in terms
Right.
of our relationship and our friendship. But I guess I could see how he thought I was joking. And I asked them what they were going to wear, and they were just going to be like in, like business casual, whatever. And I told him, look, if you're in that, I'm going to have to show up in a tuxedo. And then he's like, all right, I'll put on tuxedo. I go, well, if you're putting on tuxedo, I'm going to have to wear a wedding dress. And the bride's like, approved. And I had that idea because Amy Sedaris, who's one of my favorite
She's
comedians,
brilliant.
when her sister was getting married in some mountaintop in like a business suit, she had to be talked out of showing up in a wedding dress with the long train and so on and so forth. Wait, so your mom showed up was it her own wedding dress or she got a wedding dress for the occasion?
No, it was one she had. Like no one stopped her. So it's like she didn't have the long train. She just wore
Okay.
the dress part. So, but
Did she
right
have
when
the veil?
she didn't have the veil.
Okay.
It was just the whole dress.
Yeah.
And then she showed up in that, and I'm just like, you didn't do that. There's no way. Why would you
Did
do
you
that?
say, listen, you bitch, you got some nerve wearing white?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we know you've already had twins, you whore, and at least a miscarriage. So I when she showed up, I'm like, Oh no. And immediately, my friends aren't going to be sensitive. They're like, "So you're gonna fuck her?" I'm like, "Guys, this isn't. She's bipolar. We need to figure this out." And I knew she was gonna do something, but it really was staggering. And like my friend Joe, fortunately, did the wedding, so it wasn't a priest who had or any like it wasn't a somebody who was like, hey, is this a Mormon wedding, like how does this work? But boy, the looks we got once we got to go to the party, you had the party planner like, so which one do I talk to about? I'm like, no, the bride is the young one, not the one who looks like I'm marrying for money. That one's my mom. The other one who is being very, very understanding right now. That's my wife. But yeah, there's a picture of my mom doing a speech behind me, next to my wife and my best friend Jimmy, and she's doing a speech, and the look of anger on my face. It should be a movie about matricide. Like it is I was just so like, and everybody knew she was going through some stuff. My mom was for years. I loved her, but this was when she was pre-offing herself. So she was really like on that downward spiral. So everybody kind of just played along like it was perfectly normal.
Oh,
And I
you
was
didn't even
like,
say anything to her?
I did, but the problem is everybody else is like, let's just, I'm like, no, not let's just.
Wait,
This is
what
the
did you say? Wait,
problem.
come on, let's hear this conversation. You ask your mom, why are you in a wedding dress?
I was like, she goes, well, I had it dyed. I go, what, white? I go, it's white. She's like, well, it's off white. I go, it's not off white. I'm looking at it. Like, you're just saying that it's off white. She goes, well, I just thought it was a very nice dress and I didn't want to wear the green one. And I was like, I need you to not wear a wedding dress to a wet. And then the kicker, years later, not years, but a few years later, when she finally passed away by her own hand, she decided it was best. I look at her
No,
will.
no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no.
And the dress she wants to be buried in is the wedding dress.
Not the green one?
Nope. So I'm thinking, let's do the green one so we don't have fucking corpse bride. So I'm like, listen, there's no way we're burying her in a wedding dress. She's not well. She was bipolar. Like, she's been very mentally ill for a long time. And everybody's like, listen, this is how we're going to do. We have to like honor her wishes. And we're walking through like, I'm walking through this, I don't know if you've ever picked out a coffin
No,
for your mom or anything, but
no.
it's like you're like walking through, and the way they talk about them are hysterical. Like, this is the Cadillac of, like the way it's very creepy. And then of course I have like an uncle with me who's going like, well, this one, I mean, this one's pretty cheap though. I mean, you get a good deal on this. It's fairly light. I'm like, yeah. What about just the box it came in? Could we rent a coffin and then just slap her into a refrigerator box? Like, I hate all of you so much right now.
No, you got the exercise bike box
Yeah, yeah. Look at that behind me. That's what my mom's. She's in there right now.
in the wedding dress. Dude, don't look behind you. Like the hand reaches
Yeah,
out.
grab her hand and say, "Talk to me." I just so so now it's such a crazy story. So my mom, for the
Dave,
audience.
I'm sorry. Like, this is really, really upsetting me because it would give me anything if we cut to like someone's hand reaching out of that box and we just end the show and like everyone at home just
I'd be
shits their
happy if
pants.
you did. If you like, if we could.
If you had someone there to just reach their hand out as if they were there the whole time.
I kind of want
My
to get a
God.
neighbor just in a wedding dress, and then they're
Yes.
like the ring.
You are
Just
you
says you have 7 days to live.
everyone watching this has 7 days to live.
So I'd be like, why do you think I'm disheveled and my apartment's a mess? Being
I can't
haunted by
sleep.
my mom's bride corpse.
Wait. So what did you end up burying her in?
The wedding dress, because I don't get my way. So now we're at the funeral,
Yeah.
and my dad had died of Agent Orange when I was a teenager, and my mom kind of spiraled out. She's a very sweet person, but that was the problem. Was she just couldn't live without him, and at that point she had taken her own life with pills,
Okay.
and we didn't have the story straight yet. So now she's in the coffin, and she was a very popular woman, so it's tons of people. And my brother and me are telling people what happened, but our stories don't corroborate. So the whole beginning of the wake, because like we have the whole Italian Irish thing where it's like 2 days before you put her into her final resting bridal party, we we now have to tell people like what happened, and I'm saying stuff that I don't even understand. I'm like, well, we have to get the results of the autopsy, and my friend's mom's like, was she murdered? And I'm like, what? We don't know yet. Like, do you want? There's some cheese and fruit in the other room if you want it. Um, it's really nice spread we got. We went to Buscemi's and got some pizza rolls. You like pizza rolls? And then we're like, should we just settle on heart attack? I don't know what to do. Like, because my brother's telling him like, oh, fibromyalgia and this whatever, and it's like, can you die from that? And we didn't know what to say. So I think I told like 9 different people that she died in a different way, and then she's
Ted Kennedy drove her
yeah
up a bridge.
yeah she's.
She didn't drown. She suffocated.
Yeah, she's getting buried in her water car. Yeah, you're like, yeah, she went on a date. She went on a date on the Chippewatic River, and yeah, we're just making stuff up. We're like, oh, what happened Dallas in the '60s? Just trying to remember. Like, how'd your mom die? 9/11. It's
I went back in time and killed grandma, so she no longer existed. It's time paradox.
You're like, yeah, that DeLorean I bought. Like, it's crazy. Like, see this picture of her? It's totally faded. That's your balls. So I just, it was so weird because like we didn't have the story, and then like the second day of the wake, we're like, I think people think we murdered her now, so we have to now explain like kind of what really happened, which is now you have to go. She took her own life. She was very depressed.
After being left at the altar.
She was being left. The groom didn't show up. As you can see, there's only one box. And there's one bit, which I actually did say to my brother after the wedding dress. I did say, I go, should we have one coffin that's empty just because she's wearing the wedding dress? And he's like, just stop. And I'm like, I'm not going to stop because I don't agree with this. Like, it's weird and it's fine. And then when it was
what
worse.
To the green dress? Did it get? It's buried. Did you throw it out?
No, I put it around one of my pillows. I sleep with it.
I make my son wear it.
Yeah,
and I call him mommy.
Yes. He cooks me dinner. He's 8. He's not very good with his hands. He's got a lot of burns. I'm like, make me biscotti, and I pretend I'm the kid. It's really traumatizes him. So he, so that's what he does, and we have her hair just like how she liked it, his hair in a ponytail, and the other dress we just we donated after we sold the house to people who we were sure not to tell what happened in the bedroom. You don't want to bring that up when you're trying to sell a house.
She didn't kill herself. She was murdered.
Yeah, like it's not. Hey.
Talk about dodging a bullet.
So it's funny. It's like, oh, this house is haunted. I'm like, it really doesn't matter. She's just gonna want peanut M&Ms, and you'll probably just hear some complaining in the wind.
It's like, Dave, we saw like a ghost of a bride. Oh no, that was just my mom. She wasn't a bride. She was just in a wedding dress.
She just loved the dress so much it died with her. Yeah, she was sort of sure it was a wedding dress, but for her it was an all occasion feast.
Oh my God. All right, Dave, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
I have to say, just knowing that you were willing to wear a wedding dress yourself to a wedding.
I do. Awesome, dude. This is going to drop Wednesday, and